Hello and welcome to Create and Inspire. This is Amanda from Rise and Procrastinate, and today we're going to be doing some stamp kissing. So let's get started. So I've got a Tim Holtz stamp platform here, but any stamp platform should work. You're going to want to set it up for a rubber cling foam stamp because we're going to be using a photopolymer stamp on top of a photopolymer stamp. So I do recommend that you use a slow drying ink, such as a pigment ink or a distress oxide ink. I'm starting off with Peacock Feathers and Mermaid Lagoon in the Oxide line. And I'm going to take a little foam bit here and kind of smooth out the edge between the two colors. So then we're going to take the mermaid and we're going to kiss it up against well, what I'm using is a background stamp. It's not technically a background stamp, but that's what I'm going to use it for. So for best results for this technique, you do want to use a silhouette or a more solid image stamp against an intricate image stamp. So my mermaid is kind of my solid image stamp, and my intricate image stamp is the Honeybee Zen stamp, Zen bouquet, whatever it's called, Zen Ocean stamp. There we go. The mermaid isn't completely a silhouette stamp. From about the waist up to her head is, and the tail and the hair and the wings are not. But it's worked out pretty good. As you can see, my mermaid does not cover my whole Zen Ocean stamp, and that's fine because the mermaid is actually bigger than an A2 size card, and I'm fine with that because I'm going to be cutting this panel down. The reason why it's a lot bigger is because I wanted it to be able to fit in the corner so I could restamp it and line it up to restamp if I needed to, and also because I'm going to be stamping another image here in a minute, a fish, and I wanted to make sure that I could fit the fish on there and still line it up in the corner. And yeah, so my card stock is a lot bigger than what I need it to be, but we are going to be cutting it down. So I'm going to restamp it here to make sure that I've got a nice bold image. And of course, I put my paper in before I stamped the mermaid down and picked up the ink, so kind of had a little brain fart there. It happens. All right, so we're going to get this stamped again, and then we'll be moving on to the next stamp. So you will get ink on the back of your paper here using this technique, or the way I'm doing it here, but that's fine. You're not going to see the back of the paper on this. I did try a couple different ways before I settled on this technique. I did try a way where I took the Zen stamp out and I put foam underneath it, but I was having issues that, if I wanted to stamp it again, I couldn't do that because I couldn't put the Zen stamp in there and have it line up correctly again, obviously. Also, I have a pellet stove in my craft room because I'm in the basement. I need to stay warm. So I was having issues where the oxides were wanting to dry kind of quickly. I wasn't getting a good image because it's so warm in my basement with the pellet stove running, full blast. So yeah, so I just found that it was easier that if I just left it in there and just put the paper over top. So we're just going to do the same thing here with the fish from the Sea Creature stamp set. Now the fish is pretty much completely solid, so we'll get a good image with this. And as you noticed, or probably noticed, I inked up the entire stamp for just that little itty bitty fish. So I was having another brain fart there. But we will use the ink for that. I'm just going to not let that go to waste, but I'll use that for another project. All right, so we got that fish stamped out. We're going to take this panel out, and then I'm going to re-ink just that spot with the fish. And I'm going to spray this stamp with a little bit of water to make sure that the peacock feather area is still moist enough to get an image here. I took another piece of cardstock, and we're going to pick up that ink so it does not go to waste. Waste not, want not. And I will show you that I did get a really good image here once I'm done rubbing it. I always tend to over rub, but I want to make sure that I get in a good image. And there we go. Now we'll use that on another project. So now I've cut my panel down to 4 by 5 1/4 because I do like to have white borders on my cards. And we're going to come in with some Distress ink in Baroque in China. And I'm using Distress ink over the Distress Oxides because Distress inks are transparent and the Distress Oxides are opaque. And I do not want to cover up this stamping that I already worked so hard on. So that is why I chose the Distress inks. And we're just going to ink blend around the edges, and I'm going to leave a white highlight in the middle, again, because I don't want to distract from that image that I've already spent so much time doing. And I'm going to ink blend about halfway up or so with the broken china, and then we're going to come in with the tumbled glass. And that's because, well, the ocean's going to be darker on the bottom than it is on the top, so I did want to fade out a little bit towards the top. So once we get done here, we're going to move on to some stenciling. Sorry about the pauses. I totally recorded this voiceover already. Well, kind of recorded it, I guess. I thought I was recording, but my microphone wasn't plugged in, so I'm trying to remember what I've told you and what I haven't now, because I already did this once. Oh man. I tell you, I don't know where my brain's been this last week. I've been so forgetful. Anyways, so now that we've done this stenciling or this ink blending, now we're gonna come in with this Carabelle Studio Fons Marin stencil. I'm sure I butchered that, but it'll be linked in the description box below, or not linked, but it will be in the description box below. So I decided that I wanted a little bit more detail to this. It was seeming kind of plain to me, but I didn't want it to be like in your face because I want the mermaid to be the star of the show, obviously. So I'm just gonna come in the bottom right hand corner here, and then the top left hand corner with the stencil. And I'm using the exact same colors that I have just used on the edges, so the broken china and the tumbled glass. Excuse me. And I did tape this stencil to the back of my card front here, and just kind of did like a little hinge effect. Not really effect, but hinge, whatever. I did a hinge so I could just kind of lift it up and see how things were going. I didn't want it to be too terribly dark, but I did want it to be noticeable, obviously. So just finishing up the stenciling here. So I had a little bit more detail, but not, like I said, not too much. So I'm just about done here, and then we will move on to assembling the card, I believe. Nope, I lie. I forgot about this part. So I'm coming in with the Lavinia Stamps Pebble stencil, and I'm just using a drop or two of the Versamark re-inker here and a Distress ink blending tool. And I'm just going to dab that in. I kind of feel like this pebble stencil could kind of looks like bubbles, so I've used it that way a couple of times now. And we're just going to dab it in here and there around the card panel. And I'm gonna come in with the Distress Glaze in broken china and a mix of cracked pistachio a little bit later. And we're going to sprinkle that around, and I'm going to have that act as my bubbles. So if you're not familiar with the Create and Inkspire website, you should definitely go check it out. I'll have it in the description box below. I've been creating videos for the website since it came to be in, I believe, July of 2020. It used to be a member paid website where you had to have a subscription and pay for it, but now it is completely free, so definitely go check it out. There's lots of videos and blog posts and lots of inspiration, and there's also a forum where you can interact with people. I know that a lot of people are trying to get away from social media with all the political stuff and the things going on in the world, and they just find it depressing, but all we have is crafty goodness going on over there. So definitely go check it out. Again, that will be listed in the description box below. You can definitely check that out. So now that I have finished this, I did knock some of this Distress Glaze back before I heat set it. I decided that I went a little crazy and went overboard. So now I'm just going to glue my panel to this, this teal, turquoise, whatever you want to call it, panel that's just a little bit, 1/8 of an inch bigger than my inked panel. And that's some Recollections cardstock that I had in my stash. And then I'm going to glue this "We Mermaid for you for each other" sentiment that I typed out and printed and did the print and cut on my Cricut. I'm just going to glue that onto the front. I guess I'm going to glue it. Nope, I didn't. So we're just going to glue ink blend the edges of this so it's not so stark white against my card front. I don't like to put stark white sentiments and whatnot that I've printed off against my card front if I don't have a whole lot of white going on, and I do not on this card. So we're just going to ink blend around the edges of that with some excess ink I had on my brushes. Glue that down, and then we will assemble the card. And that will finish up my card for today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, please check out the Create and Inkspire website. There's a lot of fun videos and blog posts over there. My supplies will be listed in the description box below. I also have social media links. If you're watching this on the Create and Inkspire website, you can check my YouTube channel out, my blog, my Facebook, and all that good stuff. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, have a great day.